Bear with us for just a minute.
No, everything's done.
Now we're good.
Got the thumbs up from the cameraman, so we're good to go. With that, we will call to order and we'll begin with our opening ceremony. Ryan will lead us in the pledge of allegiance and then I will give the opening comments. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, as we come before you this day, we're thankful for the opportunity to serve in our community. We're thankful for the friendships and the families that live here. We pray for guidance and direction from thee and pray that we might understand the needs and the desires and the things that need to be taken care of in this meeting. We pray that our hearts and minds might be full and energized by thy being. Father, we pray for this moisture to continue, but we pray that it stays within the bounds that are safe so that we might have the things that we need to sustain our crops and our lives. We thank thee, Father, for this great place we live and the freedoms we enjoy. And we say these things humbly in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, do we have any special communications or appearances today?
We do not.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to our working agenda. Our first public hearing today will be for the rezoning of property at approximately 2276 Arrowhead Trail, parcels SC 62 22 4148, SC 9A12, and SC 9A18, described as 1.4 acres. We are proposing a rezone of the property from R110 single family residential zone and the planned development commercial PDZ zone to the R16 single family residential zone. The proposed rezoning is part of the process to allow for a proposed single family residential subdivision. With that, we turn to Jim.
Thanks, Chair Hendrickson, and I'll go through the report on that. The applicant is Split Rock Construction. Again, this is a proposal to rezone property at approximately 2276 Arrowhead Trail. The parcel is approximately 1.48 acres in size. And so the applicant has submitted a concept plan, which you see on the overhead. It includes 7 single-family lots, with lots ranging from approximately 6,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet in size. The concept plan has been provided to give the Planning Commission an idea of what's intended to be developed on the property. So as you're aware, this is the proposals for R16. Previously, this came to the both the Planning Commission and Council very recently. The step before this was a general plan amendment, and that was reviewed, and a recommendation was made by the Planning Commission on that item. On February 23rd of 2023, the public hearing was held here at the Planning Commission. And then the item went to the City Council on March 8th of 2023. And the council agreed with the amendment, the change to the general plan, which placed a medium density residential land use on the property in support of the proposed R16 single family residential zone. That's what's before you tonight. That's what they're proposing to do, and that's the plan. We've sent notices to property owners within 300 feet. We also posted the property. We've not received any responses on this item, as there's been a number of public meetings on this item already. Our general plan map discusses the medium density residential, talks about single family structures and townhomes on small lots with a density range of 3 to 12 dwelling units per acre. The proposed rezoning application would allow for single family homes on lots of 6,000 square feet or greater, and the use is encouraged by the general plan. Now, the rezoning consideration as per chapter 1718-090 has items A through H. We've gone through those quite a bit on this particular project in the past, but with this rezoning, I'll quickly go through it. It talks about is the proposed use suitable in view of the zoning and development of adjacent and nearby property? Yes, it is. Second, will the proposed use adversely affect the existing use or suitability of adjacent or nearby property? No. Next, are there substantial reasons why the property cannot or should not be used as currently zoned? Yes, that's why they're asking to rezone the property, because of the split zone situation that we've previously discussed. Will the proposed use cause an excessive or burdensome use of public facilities or services, including but not limited to streets, schools, water, or sewer utilities and police and fire protection? No. Is the proposed use compatible with the purpose and intent of the general plan? Yes. Will the use be consistent with the purpose and intent of the proposed zoning district? Yes. R16. Is the proposed use supported by new or changing conditions not anticipated by the general plan? No, because we don't have any of that in play at this point. And last, does the proposed use reflect a reasonable balance between the promotion of the public health, safety, morality, or general welfare and right to the unrestricted use of property? Yes. So this new zoning application has been reviewed by city staff and legal counsel. We believe the proposed rezoning is in harmony with the existing single-family neighborhood. Previously, we recommended that the applicant consider developing the site as a small lot, single-family subdivision per the recently adopted R16 zone. They're following that recommendation. We meet state statute as per Utah Code Section 10-9A-205 for rezoning of property and holding at least one public hearing. Planning staff's gone through the statute and determined that all state code requirements have been met. Our city staff recommendation is as follows. City staff recommends that the planning commission review the submitted rezoning application to determine if the application is complete. If the application is determined to be complete, city staff would recommend that the planning commission forward a recommendation to the city council for their review and consideration of the application subject to the following conditions. We've itemized all the items under 1 and in item 2. And then lastly, with the following findings. 1, that the rezoning is compliant with the Santa Clara General Plan, Section 3.4.1 residential land uses, medium density residential. 2nd, that the R16 single family zone allows for homes on lots of 6,000 square feet or larger. And 3rd, the properties to the north are zone PDC. Properties to the south and west are zone R110, with the R16 being an appropriate transition in between these land uses. So I'll turn the time back over to you, Chair Henderson.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With that, our public hearing is open. We remind you, if you'd like to comment about this, please come forward to the microphone. Comments from the gallery will not be considered. And in fact, we ask that you not clap or cheer or jeer, and that you, when you come to the podium, you state your name and address clearly for record to be notified. And we will open the public hearing at this time for comment on this particular one. Council, we okay to proceed? We have no comment at this time. With that, we'll close the public hearing and move on to the commission, the council commission to ask any questions of the developer or any other things that we feel necessary. We have looked at this before. I think we're pretty well aware of the questions that we asked in the last go round, but do we have anything from the commission?
Think for me.
James? Ron? Okay, with that, let's move into our agenda here. I have to look at my notes because I can't remember what I'm supposed to do. So
We will go back to.
we'll go back to general business and take a recommendation from the commission regarding to the city council proposed rezoning of property at approximately 2276 Arrowhead Trail. Split Rock Construction is proposing to rezone the property from R110 single family residential zone and the planned development commercial PD zone to the R16 single family residential zone. The proposed rezoning is part of the process to allow for a proposed single family residential subdivision. With that, I'll entertain motions from the commission. Well, don't all speak at once.
I recommend move to recommend to City Council approval of the proposed rezoning property approximately 2276 Arrowhead Trail. Subject to the conditions proposed by staff.
Thank you.
In
Do
the
I have a
staff
second?
report.
Second.
We have a motion from Shelley to approve and a second from Logan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, if any. Motion carries. Thank you, Commission. All right, back to our agenda. We'll go back to our working agenda for one Public hearing A, section 2, consider a proposed rezoning of property at 400 East Patricia Drive and Pioneer Parkway, parcels SC SB 90A2 and SC SB 90A4 and B, described as 18.09 acres. The applicant, Clayton Levitt, is proposing to rezone the property from R110 Single Family Residential Zone to the Planned Development Residential PDR zone to allow for a proposed residential project that would include single-family homes, multifamily townhomes, and other amenities. Jim.
Thank you, Chair Hendrickson, and I'm going to take a little bit of time to go through this item with detail. We have quite a few residents here, and the applicant is here to add to the dialogue as well after my presentation. So I do have the project plan that's up, what's proposed for the site. The applicant is Clayton Levitt with Oak Creek. He's requesting to rezone the property, as we talked, at 400 East and Patricia and Pioneer Parkway. The subject property is approximately 18.09 acres in size. This property is currently zoned R110, single family residential, and the applicant proposes to rezone it to Planned Development Residential, the PDR zone, to allow for a proposed residential project that would include single family homes, multifamily townhomes, and amenities. The applicant has been working with city staff on the project design for several months. This item has been to several weekly TRC or technical review committee meetings and was discussed on May 4th of 2022 and June 1st of 2022 with city council during work meeting sessions. A good number of residents attended those meetings, some of which may be here this evening. Here's our project plan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the project plan review items point by point, and we have many slides, so I'm going to have to go through those slides just to give everybody a feel for what's going on here. So this plan includes a total of 144 units on 18.08 acres of property. This equates to a density of 7.96 units per acre. The plan includes a total of 69 single-family lots or pad lots with 75 multifamily townhomes. The PDR zone allows for a base density of 8 units per acre. The applicant is not requesting a density bonus for the project. So the PDR zone allows for the potential of a density bonus to get up to 12 units per acre. In this case, the plan that is in front of you, the project plan, proposes 7.96 units per acre for a total of 144 units. So the phasing plan, you can see what would be proposed here. So phase 1A, these are single family lots, typical lots that front on Patricia Drive. Lots 1 through 7 are approximately 8,000 square feet, with lots 8 through 14 being 6,000 square foot lots. So that's phase 1A. Phase 1B is on the interior. It includes some smaller pad lots, but single family detached with roads going in with that. You have phase 2, which is another area over here in yellow, which would be single family homes and pickleball courts. Going back to 1B, the pool and restroom facility would be part of that. Phase 2 shows single family homes. Phase 3, more of the pad lots, single family homes, as well as phase 4 to the south. Then we have phase 5, which transitions to the north and gets into some multifamily townhomes. Phase 6 includes multifamily townhomes, and so does phase 7, some of which back onto 400 East. So you can see there's a split here with the access road off of 400 East. So you can see facing like uses, the single family homes facing the existing single family homes on Patricia. And then we have single family pad lots that are across the street from the Heights, very similar in size and scale with the larger pad lots. And then we have some smaller pads. Next, I want to go through some of the building elevations and materials. And so we've got a number of items here. So this is a single family home. Standard single family Rambler. And so this is a home that they could potentially put on one of the lots, the single family lots facing Patricia, or the pad lots, the typical pad lots, the ones that are a little bit larger. So you see that design is showing you the left elevation, the right elevation in 3D, showing you that. And so you see that. And so that's the look of a Rambler style home. They also are showing a two-story style home, and this is the look of that home with a front and rear elevation, and then the side elevations in a 3D. And so showing us some of that. And then this is a fourplex type building. And so you can see that design there, a two-story fourplex building with the garages, and then the front elevation with the access, and then the rear elevation with rear loaded garages. So that's another option. And you can see the right side and the left side elevation in three dimensions. Okay. And so that's another view of the building itself. So now I want to go to a sixplex building. Just want to talk about that. You can see this option. It's a front elevation, but this rendering includes 4 two-story townhomes, and then the ends would be Ramblers style units to bring that height down. So you see a front elevation and a rear elevation there. And then you see the sides, the right side and the left side rendering. And then in 3 dimensions, and this is nice. These are little courtyard areas for the residents where you could have a barbecue or some outdoor seating that projects out front in front of the unit itself, because that kind of becomes your outdoor space. And that presents a good view of that. And you can see that for those two-story townhomes, that outdoor space. And then this is a picture of the one-story townhome building. Maybe I have another one here. No, here we go. Make that a little bigger if it'll blow up for me. You can kind of see that this is a one-story building. It's a nice design. It does include a 1-car garage with a 2-car driveway. The other units have 2-car driveways with 2-car garages. However, our code requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, one of which could be uncovered and one is covered. So this shows 2 uncovered with 1 covered. This would be the base point, trying to create some affordability to the project. This would be a unit that's about 1,000 to 1,100 square feet, perhaps allowing an opportunity for a first-time buyer to get into the housing market. Let's see, I don't know what's going on here with the pictures. We can't do that yet, sir. We're in the middle. I'm making a presentation. The applicant will make a presentation, and as the chair said, he'll open it up to the public after which. Okay. Okay. These are some of the narrow lots that I showed you, the narrow pad lots. That were adjacent to or behind the homes that fronted onto Patricia. These are single family homes, but they're narrow. They're approximately 25 to 26 feet wide. As you can see, the garage, a typical 2-car garage door is 16 feet wide with 2 feet on either side for 20, and then 5 or 6 feet here. So this is an option of a narrow pad lot. And we have another option here of a single family detached home on a narrow pad lot. And then kind of going through some of the materials where the stucco and the hardy board and the brick and stone would go on a Rambler unit. The same for a 2-story unit. So a lot of detail here because it's a planned development with a project plan being shown here. And then we have some material boards. So you can see for the single family homes, different materials. You've got a brick, a Tundra brick, another Tundra brick in another color, and another brick with more of a charcoal color. So the single family homes, you see the colors and materials. You've got the roofing material, the different stucco materials, as well as the brick, and 3 different renditions or scenarios along with that tile roof. And then for the single family home at Pioneer Point, here's another option. So we have 2 different options for the single family homes, and I'll let Clayton Levitt explain that a little further, but we've got this option, the brick options, and then we have the stone options. So these are a stone facade, again, with the tile roofing and the stucco facades. And then this is the townhome. So the Pioneer Point townhome, you see a couple different scenarios here for the building colors and the materials. And so I want to go back to the project plan just to give you an idea of where some of those homes were that we just described. And so that's a little bit tough. So the townhomes, the one-story townhomes, these three buildings right here that back onto 400 East are all the one-story townhomes that we showed you. Some of these buildings incorporate two-story walk-up with Rambler units on the ends of these townhomes. And then these townhomes around this green court and that also front onto Tuscany, those are two-story walk-up townhomes. The typical Ramblers or two-story homes could go on any of these 14 lots, as well as these larger pad lots. But the narrow pad lot are the 4 homes that I showed you that are narrow. Now, as far as the setbacks go, there is some flexibility
By
with
that,
it.
Jim, so those are the 15 through 30, correct?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Yes, that is correct. And so the setbacks would be a standard setback for the single family zones, a front yard of 20 feet with that driveway, side yards of 8 and 8 for a total of 16 with a rear yard of 10. Now with the pad style lots, similar to the Heights across the street and to the south, we're asking for 16 feet of separation between those buildings themselves so it doesn't feel so tight, allowing for a driveway and for some parking if someone wants to pour a pad or actually utilize a side yard. So those units are all 16 feet apart, which is a nice setback. It's the same as these single family lots for the separation. However, the front setback to the living space allows for an option to go a little bit closer. So we're saying 15 foot to the living space, but 20 foot to the garage with a depth of 20 feet driveway. And then we have these 8-foot side yard, 16 foot in between buildings, and then a 10-foot rear yard, just like the single family. And so that applies to all of the detached product. And then we have the multifamily product. And so the one-story townhomes here, we, have a front yard setback of, they can also do the 15 feet to living space and 20 feet to garage. And then we have 12 feet of separation between the buildings, which is a little greater than the building code requires at 10 feet of separation. So they're separating that a little bit more. And then we have the 2-story townhomes. And we're saying that those can also have the setback variation there with the 15 and 20, the side yards of 15 feet and a rear yard of 10 feet. Now, there is a little bit of play in the setback for these particular units right here. We've asked that these be loaded, the garage, rear load garage facing Tuscany, because we know there's a parking issue here. And really, we'd like to have these driveways facing Tuscany so people park on their driveway or in their 2-car garage. That allows for this to be open space and opens up that area that we talked about, that outdoor patio. So those are the units that are going to have the outdoor patio that fronts off the street. That patio would be 12 feet from back of sidewalk in the case of the home here. Mm-hmm. The open space requirement, let me get through this because I know there's a lot of people waiting to talk and I've got a lot of material here. We do have some nice landscaping plans. And we do have open space. The plan shows 33.83% of open space for the overall project, which is 6.12 acres. Our code requires a minimum of 30% common area open space. So they meet or exceed that criteria. And then the amenities, you can see some of the amenities that have been provided in the plan itself. We've got a restroom facility. We've got a pool area with a spa, outdoor area to lay in the sun or talk to family and friends, a pickleball facility. Those are some of the amenities. And then we have other amenities throughout the project. So what they include is phase 1B includes the restrooms, a pool, hot tub, and outdoor seating covered and uncovered for the community. Additional open space areas with gazebos and barbecues have been shown in other phases. So we have this playground area, a large gazebo with outdoor open space for the residents. We have another central green court with a gazebo and open space for these residents that kind of front, they rear load here, but the front of the unit faces that nice green court. And then we have the same scenario here around the single family pad homes, another open space area. So there's a good amount of open space and amenities as required by the code. Another thing that is being shown here, which is required, is to meet our trails master plan. The applicant has provided an 8-foot trail, multi-purpose trail, public trail here adjacent to 400 East. And that 8-foot trail is required. This trail is required as per the 2018 Trails Master Plan. The required trail will tie in with the existing section of trail along 400 East frontage of Tuscany, which provides a connection to other trails in the area. And then landscaping and water efficiency is something that we have talked about a lot. It's something that comes up over and over again. They have a good, excuse me, they have a nice landscape plan here. They're proposing to comply with our city ordinance 2022-05, which is our water efficient landscaping and conservation ordinance. They will be required to connect to secondary water for all outdoor water use for conservation. So they're very aware of that requirement, and everybody we're working with is currently doing that. As far as the road cross sections, they are required to put a public road in this project. We do not do private streets in the city. Other cities allow for that. We do not. This is a public street, a 45-foot cross section throughout the interior of this project, which will include 30 feet of asphalt, curb and gutter, and a 5-foot sidewalk on each side of the street, allowing for residents to walk throughout the community. And there's also tie-ins to all the walking trails that provide connections to the open space areas. We do have 2 private driveways on either end here that are 26 feet wide that would provide access to 2 lots each, but they're both very close to the public road. And that's just a private driveway. And so the parking for this, the plan, there's a lot of parking that's proposed for the site. The project plan includes 281 parking spaces for the 75 multifamily townhome units. This equates to 3.75 parking spaces per unit. An additional 20 parking spaces have been provided adjacent to the project amenities in the center of the property. So these areas right here, there's parking here, and here, close to that centralized amenity area. But the code requires 2 parking spaces per unit, 1 covered, 1 uncovered. They're well exceed that at 3.75 parking spaces per unit. And then the single family lots and pad lots have been designed to all include 2-car garages with 2-car driveways. And then we do have public streets as well. So we feel that sufficient parking has been provided. The project utilities, water, sewer, power, gas, that's all required. And again, the secondary water connection is required for all outdoor use. The soils report, a geotechnical report, which is a subsurface investigation, was done by Applied Geotechnical for the property. It appears that expansive clay was encountered in the middle, multiple site locations, both north and south. However, the site is suitable to support residential slab on grade construction, provided that the report recommendations are implemented. That would be looked at later. That's very common, collapsible soils and soil issues. And so there will be a lot of site work that has to be done. A traffic impact study, or TIS, was done by Hales Engineering and submitted for the property. 2 project access points were assumed, which resulted in an acceptable level of service at the intersections in place. However, a 3rd access was also considered at on Patricia Drive. The 3rd access would improve the internal circulation of the project, but since the report was submitted, the project has been redesigned to include a row of single-family lots on Patricia Drive without an access to the interior site. This was done, like we spoke about earlier, to tie in with the existing single-family neighborhood in the immediate vicinity. So access is going to be gained off of Pioneer right here, or off of 400 East to the center or middle of the project. Access to these single-family lots, matching other single-family lots on Patricia, will be off of Patricia Drive. A project narrative was submitted by the applicant, and we'll let him speak to that when he has an opportunity. And then a block privacy wall is required for rear loading lots. So there will be a block wall along Pioneer Parkway, as well as along 400 East for the units that back onto those arterial roadways. Notices were sent to all property owners within 300 feet. We also posted the property with signs. As you can tell, it was well received. We have quite a few people here. We've received phone calls as well as emails. Those emails have been shared with the Planning Commission. As far as the general plan goes, again, the general plan designation for this property is medium density residential. And this particular map right here shows that. This map's from our general plan. It shows medium density residential with that mustard color. And the subject property is this property right here. Kind of in the northwest portion of our town. So it is a medium density residential land use designation. So the proposed project plan and rezone application includes small lot, single family homes, townhomes, and amenities for residents. The proposed use of property is encouraged by our general plan. Now, the rezoning consideration, chapter 17-18-090, we have those items. The first item A is the proposed use suitable in view of the zoning development of adjacent and nearby property. Yes. Will the proposed use adversely affect the existing use or suitability of adjacent or nearby property? No. Are there substantial reasons why the property cannot or should not be used as currently zoned? The answer there is no. The applicant has chosen to proceed with a rezoning and project plan from the R110 zone that's in place to a PD zone, wanting 7.96 units per acre. Next, will the proposed use cause an excessive or burdensome use of public facilities or services? No. Is the proposed use compatible with the purpose and intent of the general plan? Yes, we just talked about that. Will the use be consistent with the purpose and intent of the proposed zoning district? Yes. Next, is the proposed use supported by new or changing conditions not anticipated by the general plan? No, because we don't have any of those. And then, does the proposed use reflect a reasonable balance between the promotion of the public health, safety, and welfare? Yes, it does. State code considerations, section 10-9A-205. We've met all the requirements as far as property noticing, posting of the property, putting on the state website. We've provided a public hearing section on our website where all the reports and different exhibits were accessible to the residents as of last Thursday. What I do want to say briefly before I finish, and thank you for your time, this is a detailed project. The applicant has worked with city staff to provide a project plan design that includes both single family homes and multifamily homes. And so we've been working with the applicant for several months. Just if you do the math, 52% of the proposed units are multifamily townhomes, with 48% being single family lots or the pad lots. The density being asked is at 7.96 units per acre. The base density in the PD zone allows for 8 units per acre, with provisions of a density bonus if that is wanted to be pursued up to 12 units per acre. So the applicant has worked with staff and been listening and wanting to comply with the base ordinance and not ask for a density bonus. So at this time, city staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the submitted rezoning application and project plan to determine if the application is complete. If the application is determined to be complete, city staff would recommend that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation to the City Council for their review and consideration of the application subject to the conditions. And I have 13 conditions, and then condition 14 talks about the rezoning of property, with the exception of item C, which I highlighted a moment ago. And then with the following findings, and I'll read those. 1, that the rezoning is compliant with the Santa Clara City General Plan, section 3.4.1, residential land uses for medium density residential. 2nd, the medium density land use designation allows for townhomes, multi-unit buildings, and small single family structures on small lots. And 3rd, that other properties in the immediate vicinity, north and south of the site, are zone plan development residential. So we have the Heights to the south, Tuscany and Blackhawk to the north, as well as others as you work your way to Googler Park and to the north. So that is my presentation. I'm sorry it was a little lengthy, but there's a lot of exhibits and a lot to cover here. I'll turn it over to you, Chair Hendrickson.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the information. With that, we'll open our public hearing. And Ms. Clayton, would you like to address anything and present any additional information? Very thorough. Well, okay, let's take the questions and we'll let you address their questions and highlight the points. That'd be great. So as we open the public meeting, we remind you to come to the space here, state your name and address for the record. We remind you to be in the audience to not clap or cheer or jeer. We also ask that you keep your comments consistent. If we continue to hear the same comment over and over, that's not necessary. We've also heard that there's a spokesperson that's been requested. We would need to verify that. That person will be given 5 minutes as opposed to the 3 minutes that will be given to any other speakers. We ask you to adhere to the 3 minutes and be very cognizant of where that is in the meeting. We also ask for decorum. So bring your questions, bring your statements. We love to hear from you. It is part of the process. Thank you. With that, the public hearing is open.
I'd like to thank you, Commission, for this time. My name is Chase Jensen. I live in the Village in the Heights at 3920 London Lane. And I'm not a spokesperson nor do I know the developer. And this may be contrary to many people sitting behind me, but I need to make it known that I support this plan. I appreciate the developer making buffers with the neighborhood, with the single family lots. I think the design is well thought out. I think that 6 years ago, I bought my first home, and I clearly am younger than many in this room and many that live in Santa Clara. Had I been born 6 years later, I think it would be very difficult for me to buy a home today. This type of community would be perfect for families starting out. This solves a huge problem that we have in the area. Many people want to live in Washington County. Many people want to live in Santa Clara. And this makes it possible for many people of my age to come to this town. My one concern is how the council and the commission would address the traffic on Pioneer Parkway. Currently, there is no middle turn lane. And when turning left into Village on the Heights, I sometimes feel like I'm going to be rear-ended. So that's a fear, and that's something to consider as you're going through. I really appreciate your time, and I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is, sorry about my voice. My name is Dial Bond. I live at 2255 Jacob Drive, Santa Clara, and I am not a spokesperson. However, I do have a petition signed by about 70 or 80 people that I'd like to present to you. These are citizens of Santa Clara, and they are people that you might know or you may not know, but they're all homeowners here in Santa Clara. And they're requesting that you do not change the zoning. Okay. And some of those signatures come from people from Ivans. Mr. Levitt introduced the fact that he had talked to some people in Ivans and they thought it would be okay. Well, people I talked to in Ivans do not want a zoning change. And you'll see their names and addresses on there. Also, that's one topic I'd like to talk about. The next one is, you mentioned that there's going to be public streets inside of this PDA. I assume that means you can park vehicles on it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. I just wanted to point out that Tuscany Road is full of vehicles from the already condos there. I've got about 16 pictures here of maybe 20 vehicles that are parked on Tuscany right now. Well, maybe not today, but this was taken on the 7th of June. And it was about 8 o'clock in the morning when I take my bike ride. There's a tow truck. There's boats. There's pickups with trailer construction equipment on it. There's cars, there's SUVs, and there are toy haulers. A toy hauler must be about 20 to 25 feet long there. It's almost there almost every day. I don't think you're gonna have all those vehicles inside on those public streets. That Tuscany's already taken up. If you put driveways on Tuscany, those cars are gonna have to go someplace. The cars in here are the one driveway units, or the one garage units. People have equipment now. They have all of this equipment. Where are they gonna park it? They're gonna park it in our neighborhoods. They're gonna come down to our neighborhood and park it there and walk home. What else are they gonna do with it? Because they can't park it on the street. They can't park it on Pioneer Parkway, I don't think. And do you want it parking on 400 East? I wouldn't think so. Can I give those pictures to you? I have another copy. I'm sorry, the quality is not very good. The next thing I'd like.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Ann Pruitt, address 3918 Madison Avenue, Santa Clara. I am concerned, I like a lot about this plan. I am concerned about traffic. I'm concerned about the road going out to Pioneer Parkway. It's already a nightmare with Patricia Drive and Pioneer Parkway, but a traffic light could be put there and probably will need to be. With 144 units planned for this development, that would mean approximately 288 cars. Usually there are 2 cars per family. The units behind Harmon's, there are approximately 185, which would be about 370 cars. That's 650 some additional cars. There's already a lot of traffic. I think a traffic light will need to be put between Patricia and Pioneer, and also between Pioneer and the old highway. It is dangerous getting onto the old highway from Pioneer Parkway, and there will be a lot more traffic than there is now. We bought our home on Madison Avenue 4 or 5 years ago. For the first few years, for the first 3 or 4 years, we never heard a siren. This last year, we are hearing sirens with greater frequency, which means things are happening that shouldn't be happening. And I think with all the additional cars, there will be more chances of accident and harm unless we plan for the traffic. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just have a handout. Can you people on the planning committee? My concern,
Ma'am, we need your name and
Sorry.
address, please.
I beg your pardon. My name is Ann Evans, and I live at 3772 Nicholas Drive. And my major concern is you're looking at one plot of ground. There are already 11 developments up in our area. And this handout that I'm giving you lists the names, and it lists the 4 major streets that are involved with all of these properties. Rachel is the busiest. That's the one that comes past Harmon's. Then there's Northtown Road. Then there's 400 East. And of course, Tuscany, which Mr. Bond just addressed because the parking is already atrocious there. So when you, I put a hand-drawn map on the back, and I'm sorry, I'm not a draftsman. I didn't take that in college, but when you look at the number of units that are already up there in the heights, right now the count is 1,129. When we add 144, that's going to make it 1,273. The only development up there that is single family homes is Bella Sol. That property started on planning in 2012. None of you were here in 2012. I don't know how long you've been on the commission, So that's what kind of worries me, because he does a great job of presenting this right here. But you don't see all that we're dealing with every single day. We have all the vacation properties. I've got ball games up there 4 days this weekend. Everybody thinks the vacations are only 2 days a week. They start on Thursdays and they go through Mondays. It's packed up there. Harmon's is packed all the time. Rachel is packed all the time. I just want you to know what is going on up in that area, because I think a lot of you live down in the valley and you don't come.
I don't live in the valley, so that you
Good.
know. I live in the area.
Do you go to
I
Harmon's?
know that James lives in the area up there too, right in the same park neighborhood.
And
So that you know, we do live in your neighborhood.
Okay, I'm thankful to hear that, because this is a major concern for, I don't have to give these people the map. They know what's going on. They're up there. They see it every single day. They've already addressed the traffic. But I just want to say that my other major concern is the water and the utilities. I sat here last night for 2 hours, listened to the city council talking about all these adjustment costs for utilities. I'm glad I'm not on city council. I've done that job before in another state, another city. I am so glad I don't have to do that right now. I know they're all getting railed on, but this is something that you have to consider: water and utilities in this area. And I know the state's already looked at it. They've already passed a provision, HB 425, because they know they're trying to shut down the plant in Delta. They've already shut down Four Corners. These are just things that I want you to consider when you're considering a medium.
Her time is up, Chair. We'll go ahead and wrap.
Thank you.
Go ahead and finish. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Bauman. I live at 2340 Patricia Drive in Santa Clara. I truly appreciate all the work that has been done on this plan since the initial presentation that was made to the city council. I really do. I think my two things would be, ideally, I would love to just see it all R16 zoned and have the townhomes gone. That's more in line with what we see over on the Heights, and a little bit more as a buffer between the R110 and going all the way to townhomes. That being said, if this were approved, I would hope there would be some assurance that once we change the zone to PDR, all of a sudden the smaller lots, or even the lots along Patricia Drive, don't suddenly all become townhome lots with planning, that they do stay as presented and not change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon. My name's Doug Carroll. I live in Village on the Heights. I find the whole process that we're going through here unnecessary. I don't see why he can't just develop single-family homes. You got a problem when you confuse progress with growth. Progress is quality of life. And I see here that it will only diminish the quality of life. It will not increase the quality of life for the people moving in there or the people that live around there. Another thing is water. Ivans is already looking at water, and it seems to be a terrible shortage coming up. You're not going to get the Lake Powell pipeline because there's no water in Lake Powell. So I don't know where you're going to come up with all the water. I think you ought to take another look at this and see if this gives the city quality.
Thank you, sir.
My name is David Pond. I live at 2322 Joshua Circle. Just a couple of things. My thoughts echo those that have been expressed as well, but a couple of things, concerns that we have is, so when Black Hawk was built, understanding was that was to be owner occupied. And the majority of this, with the previous meetings from Mr. Levitt, is that this would be These are good starter homes. But Blackhawk is not majority owner occupied. It's quite the opposite. Very many that are rentals, that the rent is now approaching $2,000 a month. That's not very affordable housing. Some of the other concerns that have been expressed, there's not enough parking for Blackhawk, for Tuscany. I see this as a bottleneck where you've got two primary access points. Pioneer Parkway is getting busy enough. The other concern that we have is if the zoning is allowed to change to PDU, what would prevent Mr. Levitt from changing the density as it currently stands now as just under 8 units per acre to increasing that with that allowance? Also with the average is 7.96 units per acre, but once with phases 5, 6, and 7, those are way outside the current zoning with those phases averaging almost 17 units per acre. So those are some of the concerns and questions that we have. I'm not opposed to development, but I would rather see this stay R110. It maintains the consistency of the heights flowing into Ivans. There's way too many multi-units between Tuscany and Blackhawk, the new apartments that are going in west of Arcadia, Ocotillo Springs, Arcadia, Paradise Village, the apartments north of Harmons. It's all high density housing. And we need to have some consistency of single family homes in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Chair, Matt and City Attorney asked me to answer the last individual that spoke.
Yeah,
And this
because
individual
we've got
just
some incorrect.
couple
data there.
clarifications. So I'm sorry, she asked about what's to keep this from changing along Patricia, these single family lots and then the pad lots to multifamily. What would change is if the council, again, this is a legislative decision. If it goes through, the public hearing occurs here at the planning commission level, and then it would go to city council for a public meeting, but they're the legislative body that grants approval or denial of a rezoning of property. Our process for a PD zone requires a project plan. This particular project plan is part of an entitlement. So if the property is rezoned, this project plan runs with it if it's approved, and then an ordinance is adopted by the city that the city attorney puts in place saying you will not exceed more than 144 units, the 69 single family, the 75 townhomes, a maximum density of 7.96 units per acre. So all of that runs with their entitlement and adoption by city ordinance. And so that's what I have for now. That's come up a few times. It's not going to change. To change, he'd have to go through this whole public hearing process again, reopen it and redo the entitlement, which most choose not to do once the entitlement is granted.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to
Thank
ask you
you.
to clarify that for them.
That's
other
come
thing
up
is-
a couple times.
Yeah, and the math is the math. 7.96 acres is for the project. It's not broken by the phases.
Units per acre,
Units per
yes.
acre.
And it's the overall project, not
Correct.
phasing.
Not-
And you're not allowed to start with the most dense phase. And in this case, phase 1A is the 14 single family that front Patricia. So that's the
That
least
was going to be
dense,
my other.
least
comment.
dense of the project. So
Thank you, Jim.
just clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Does that help the audience's questions that were brought up?
All right, my name is Adam Ellis. I live at 2288 Julie Drive. I don't have a lot of comments for myself, but I just have a letter from someone that couldn't be here and they just asked me to read it. And so this is from Michael Kane. He lives right I don't know his address, but he's right in my neighborhood as well. I'll try to read it quick. It says, "My name is Michael Kane. I reside at 2286 Joshua Circle in Santa Clara, writing in regards to the Pioneer Point project proposed by Clayton Levitt. As a reminder, Joshua Circle is the only existing neighborhood in Santa Clara north of Pioneer Parkway that is zoned as single-family residential R110. The neighborhood comprises 66 residences. I was recently released as the Bishop of Santa Clara 15th Ward. I have no expectation that my position should have influence on the decisions, but I think that there are some lessons from my experience that are worth taking into account. I served as bishop of the 66 aforementioned residences of the Blackhawk and the Blackhawk Townhome community. We have met and loved many wonderful people that have moved into Blackhawk. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
It has been an honor to be their bishop. However, there is a reality related to our experiences with Blackhawk that must be at least acknowledged. I learned that the majority of those living in the higher density housing of Blackhawk were typically and appropriately in transition, having plans to reside somewhere else within just a few months or years. On one hand, but on the other hand, those in the single family homes that have been there for some time, and those moving in almost always have intentions of staying for many years. Those residing in single family neighborhoods define their residences with a more enduring view of this is home and therefore want to invest in it socially. I noted that those with this enduring view have a greater desire to contribute to the community and invest in lasting neighborly relationships. Let me be clear, I strongly feel that communities like Santa Clara need to have higher density, lower cost housing available for our children, grandchildren, and many others. They can live independently in a wonderful community and get a foothold of the housing market. For this reason, we are glad to have Blackhawk as a part of the neighborhood. The issue comes when the proportion of higher density housing is out of balance with single family residences. As the ratio of higher density exceeds that of single family residences, it becomes difficult and in some cases impossible for the single family residents to have sufficient resources to be inclusive with all the higher density, shorter term residents and maintain the desired sense of community for all. I look at the entire city zoning map and it portrays a lack of balance in the placement of higher density. Rezoning this piece of land will create an even greater imbalance. In this part of Santa Clara, I believe this property was rezoned or was zoned as R110 for good reason. And I'm asking and recommending based on my experience that you hold your ground and keep the subject land under discussions as R110 so that we have a little better balance with the neighborhoods. Respectfully, Michael Kane. And then as my own just single comment, if the area behind it off of Patricia and Tuscany, if that area becomes a school at some time, then traffic's going to get significantly worse. We're going to have hundreds and hundreds of cars coming in mornings and evenings added to all these. That's all. Thank you.
Can you tell us your name? Did you tell us your name for the
He
record?
did in the beginning, but
Okay, okay, thank you.
it was Adam Ellis, correct? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dave Healy. I'm representing my dad. He owns a house at 3926.
Can you say your name again, please?
Dave Healy. Biggest concern has already been mentioned is traffic and infrastructure. I pose a question to you. Is there any plan in the future to have traffic lights installed and widening roads at all?
That's not this body's, that's not our role.
There are no plans coming. Okay.
I
Yeah, adding
Not our role,
144
so-
units in that area, it's going to be pretty
Yeah.
hard to deal with. And then the other question I had was for Mr. Levitt. The price point of those homes, single family homes, what price point would those come in at?
Okay.
Or what are you planning for?
Clayton, you can address that when you speak then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we talk about the Hamlin Parkway and the plans for that? People have asked a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, Commissioner Blake, if you'd like to do that, I'll let you talk, discuss that, but I did want to make one clarification on Pioneer Parkway. It is an arterial roadway. It is an 80-foot cross section. Right now, we have one lane of travel going each direction. At some point, there could be 2 lanes of travel going in each direction and a center turn, but that's not there at this point. An arterial roadway is designed to handle 10 to 20,000 trips per day, if not more. Logan Blake is an engineer, a licensed PE. I'll let him address that. Right now, the counts are approximately just over 10,000 average daily trips on Pioneer Parkway based on studies that have been completed and submitted to the city. So there's a lot of room for growth on the roadway. I know it's different than it was in the past, but it is an arterial. It's designed to move traffic and someday could be wider. I'll turn the time over to Logan now.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, there's that, Pioneer Parkway is just not striped for as many lanes as it can hold. There's also plans for the Hamlin Parkway. There's a lot of, I don't know if you noticed all the vacant land that's been left up there that would connect the highway to Snow Canyon Parkway. That'd be also a very large 5-lane arterial road that's planned by the MPO to be built sometime in the near future. A lot of the traffic, once that's done, would go north towards that and try to get out before they would, depending on whatever. But there's also lights planned for those intersections, as that would be a more major road and collect more of the traffic towards that direction as opposed to Pioneer Parkway.
Good information. Thank you.
It's just north of the Ocotillo Springs, or
North and east.
north and east of here, not far.
Sir,
Good evening. My name is Art Pansing. I live at 3866 Nicholas Drive, about a half block from this new proposed density increase. I moved to Santa Clara last July. I was concerned about the density in the neighborhood. So before I bought, I checked the zoning in the surrounding neighborhoods. I even called the Washington County Schools to inquire about their plans for the vacant land just west of the school. The answers were all good. Single family on the land to the west, which is tonight's application, and no plans to develop by the school. So I bought my house. Now, if this proposed development is approved, it's going to ruin the rest of my life on Nicholas Drive. Even if it didn't lower the value of my house, it will add to parking problems, traffic problems, and crime. It will never again be serene, and the value will drop like a lead balloon. Did I mention crime? So as it turns out, no one may rely on the master plan for anything. I'd like to know what the purpose of the master plan was, if it can see so dramatically and easily be violated. Furthermore, as I drive around Santa Clara, I see few other neighborhoods as densely populated as this one. Why is that? Why dump all the multifamily units for Santa Clara here? Because one guy wants a big profit without regard to the quality of the life of the neighbors? Furthermore, as I drive around Santa Clara, I think you should back up here and keep the zoning single family. If you change the zoning for this parcel, I don't want to live on Nicholas Drive anymore. So I'll be back here in a few months getting permission I know you'll give me to put an eightplex where my single family house is now. Then when I sell the eightplex, I shall be able to afford to move into one of your neighborhoods. And just like the city council message, if it passes this zoning change, the hell with the rest of the residents in my current neighborhood. So either way you decide, I win. I shall either continue to have a nice life on Nicholas Drive, or I'll develop my current lot and move into one of your neighborhoods. And since I'll be making money, you won't object when I put multi-unit housings next door to you. Thank you.
Brenda Vincent, and I'm at 3580 Windmill. It's been touched on before, but I'm wondering about whether the city stipulates that the owner of the property that's going to have one of those internal accessory dwelling units is required to have it as their primary residence. That is, so you don't have somebody
can you just
owning.
pull the microphone a little closer and speak a little louder?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thought it would give reverb. Okay. Is there a stipulation? I know there are in some other communities in Utah that require that a person who has an internal accessory dwelling unit have their home there as the primary residence. So we don't have a renter then renting the internal accessory dwelling unit. I'm looking for long-term investment in the community and,
Yeah,
thinking that.
we can answer that question.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. You must be, the primary unit must be
Primary occupied.
owner occupied, but that's not really relevant to the project that's currently proposed.
Well, they've said that some of the units, those houses would have an internal accessory dwelling unit. So why isn't it relevant?
That would be up to a future owner. That's not something that's proposed by by the current applicant, as I understand it. Is that
Okay.
correct?
It was in somewhere in the 92 pages that I
He
read.
mentioned in the narrative that there would be an option for the IADUs, the internal accessory dwelling unit, as mandated by the state now.
Yes, I
The state's
understand that it's
requiring
mandated,
that in all residential.
but you can make restrictions. They have in Kaysville and in other
Correct.
places in Utah.
Actually, yes, I worked up that way for 20+ years. I'm here now. I wrote the ordinance. It allows for it. It complies with state code, but it must be owner occupied.
Okay.
So you do not have renters renting to renters. It's
Okay.
owner occupied.
Uh-huh.
And I would
And
I would just add, if this was single family homes,
Mhm.
they would all have the option to have internal accessory dwelling units as well. So that there's no change in
Okay.
that scenario based on the application that's before the.
Right. And the multifamily units are not allowed to have the IADUs. It's just the single.
I understand. That's what it says in here. I read that.
Correct.
Okay. And then if I may, what does secondary sources for irrigation refer to?
The
There
city,
hookups currently for a secondary source?
the city has a secondary water system.
Mhm.
And one of the requirements, if this project was approved, would be that improvements would have to be put in to allow for secondary water or irrigation water.
Okay, thank you. And overall, I think it's a beautiful plan. I just had those two concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Joshua Jackson, 3892 Nicholas Drive. So Patricia, right across the street from the project. Thank you for your time. You as a commission have a great opportunity today. I know often at situations like this, the zoning says one thing, the crowd says another, and you have your clamor, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your job's to follow the law. This time, the zoning is on our side. This time, there is a Venn diagram with the mixed use, with mixed use being a very broad definition, I believe 4 to 12, is that correct?
The medium density residential has a range of 3 to 12 units.
3 to 12.
Yeah.
And so it fits the zoning and it fits the master plan as is. I'm grateful for the work of the staff and even the developer and the progress that's been made. When I first looked at this, in fact, I'm personally appeased. The road does not come out by me. I'm looking at neighbors and not edifice. Yet, that's 144 units. That is 352 units surrounding the existing neighborhood and the existing zone. Now, I know the staff recommends it, and I know you put a lot of weight in this. Has been a year working with the developer. I know you need to consider that, and the work's been put in. Again, I'm afraid you all would be as appeased as I was at first. And Mr. McNulty, who I've appreciated his communication through this process, though, I think he's happy. And in fact, many times talked about we have great landscaping. And I think he's obviously very convinced. He's done his job. You all still have the chance, the right, and in fact, the zoning on your side to do the right thing and to support the existing situation. We've come up with many reasons. I hope you appreciate we haven't been too redundant. We have been very respectful. And I hope you appreciate that. Don't take that for a lack of passion. I know a lot of times when I come to city council, I come to zoning and there's the comment there, oh, you want that, but not in your backyard. Do you want this in your backyard? We don't mind the neighbors we have. Do you want 350 units of high density traffic, transitory in your backyard? You don't have to make this chance. Again, thank you for the progress so far. The due diligence needs to be done by the developer before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Josh, I feel obligated just to make one correction to your comment, and that is the city staff is not recommending approval of this project. So,
And we spoke about that yesterday, Mr. Jackson. You thanked me for being neutral, so that's an incorrect statement. Yeah.
that's up to the chair.
Go ahead.
More of a question. So I thought, as you turned it over, did you not say after that we recommend if you find if it's zoning? Did I misunderstand
I
that?
didn't, misunderstood.
Okay,
The comments from our staff are never one way or the other. They give
Okay.
us the indication and then it's the decision of the commission to make a
okay,
recommendation.
accepted. Thank you.
Yes. In fact, I've got it. If you want me to read it again, just so you understand. But that is never the case. We don't take direct action from them.
My name is Meredith Pond. I live at 2322 Joshua Circle. My concern has to do with the daily lives of all of us here in this room. Our neighborhood is being turned into an island surrounded by denser housing with all the development that's going on. And it's not good for our property values. It's not good for your longtime residents who are vested in here in this community. And it makes living in Santa Clara less desirable. And that's not what all of us want. I hope that's not what any of you want. You guys are our elected representatives, and the overwhelming majority of people in this room are asking to please, can we just keep this zoned R10 single family homes that will lend itself to the quality of life in Santa Clara? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Russell Good. I live at 3988 Madison Avenue. And what I see right here is somebody's making a profit off of this right here. And it isn't none of you, and it's not going to be none of us. And what we have to look at right now, I get to look at the rocks, the red rocks behind us. It's a beautiful. Why do we need to have these multiple family homes put up for our views? Put yourself in our shoes and look at this perspective the same way.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Allison Snyder. I live at 2326 Jacob Drive. So my concerns also align with many of the others in that I feel like this development will diminish the quality of life for existing residents in the city. One of my major concerns that I haven't heard brought up yet is that there's no parking in this development. I have a neighbor that lives in Black Hawk development, and she says that, you know, she looked at the plan and she wasn't able to make it tonight. She says she doesn't see any plans for the overflow parking. There's no place for trailers, boats, or RVs. Black Hawk doesn't allow street parking. Will they allow street parking on this street? Both subdivisions, Tuscany and Black Hawk, have been forced to park along Tuscany Drive. The driveways in Black Hawk, you can't park a full truck in the driveway without overlapping onto the sidewalk in Black Hawk because it's packed so densely. This is almost double the units as Black Hawk, for example, and her concern is that they need to reduce units in this and make a realistic plan for people living in the community. I don't think high density should be concentrated in one part of the city. I think it should be spread out. Why does the property need to be rezoned? When I bought my house, I wanted to build a block wall to provide more privacy to my backyard because I'm on a corner. And I came into the city and I asked if I could do that. And they told me, no, that's not okay. These are the rules. You know, just like the zoning is the rules. You can't build a block within this space close to a road. And so I said, okay. And I decided to do something else. And I built my wall, which ended up being a wrought iron fence further away. I followed the rules. I didn't ask to change them. I don't see why we need to change what's been established. I could have done my due diligence before I bought the property to see where I could build a wall, which the due diligence could have been done before purchasing the property and say, oh, this is what the current zoning is supposed to be. High density does not equal affordability. There, you know, as has been mentioned, there are rent is being charged $2,000 a month in Blackhawk, and over in the new developments across from the intermediate school, it's anywhere from that to $2,500 a month. That's like double my mortgage. Like, that's ridiculous. That's not affordable for people. And higher density will also put more strain on the community resources that we have. And the city is not prioritizing, for example, in Goobler Park, which will be kind of the only real open space available to this and all the other high density developments around the park. They have reduced the grass. They have pulled out the xeriscaped plants to save water, even though they're xeriscaped. And they have shut down the splash pad, all in the name of saving water. But the more development that happens around, the more vacation homes, the more rental units that don't have backyards, the more people come to the park and try to use it. And it's not being, that community resource is being shrunk, even as the demand is increasing.
The timer went off. Chair.
Oh, I didn't hear it. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Shannon Smith. I live at 3842 Tuscany Drive, Unit 9, which is in Blackhawk Townhome. Sure. I teach 5th grade. I can talk real loud. I have also lived on Jacob Drive for almost 10 years. We sold our home and we're building a home on Desert Dawn Circle. So my plan is to live and die here and raise my family here, and I love it here. I have not heard yet anything about children. I am a huge advocate for children. I teach 5th grade. I've served in my church with children. I can also speak for Allison. I'm sure she's back there going, say it. So I am extremely worried after living on Jacob Drive and then in Blackhawk and seeing what I've seen for 2 years now of the dangers for these children. They are free and running around, which is great. And there are huge trucks and SUVs and boats and trailers driving up and down Tuscany Drive, or just coming in for those baseball tournaments, which is every weekend. There is going to be so many children living here because it's affordable, which is not the right word at all to use, because I pay almost $2,000 to rent a tiny townhome. So I think if we can take a moment and think about how we want our community to be, how we want our families to be, how we want them to be safe, we need to really stick with what we already were doing. If there is a school that is built there one day, I don't know if you've ever watched 500 kids walk into an elementary school on scooters, bikes, dropped off in cars, but it's chaos. And that is really dangerous with the way this is set up for driving and dropping off and traffic. And I know that's really far-fetched and might not happen, but it's something that could. And so I just think it's something to take into consideration, is the safety of our children trying to play in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Hi, my name is Doug Wells. I live at 3842 Nicholas Drive, about four doors away from Patricia. And I like the idea of Santa Clara. I love Santa Clara. A lot of people do. I've been a realtor for over 50 years. Santa Clara has been a highly desirable area to live in. It becomes less desirable the more high density comes in and affects the adjoining properties. Where is the city going to bring in more families that live in single family homes? I guess they go across the river, on the hills across the river. There's just not much available in the single family properties for families or retirees to come and have the peace and quiet that a quote bedroom community provides. So I hope you will deny the change, keep it single family, and provide opportunities for families to have property with a little bit of elbow room. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chair, I just wanted to make one comment if I could, and this graphic's very good. Thank you for submitting that. But we do have Bella Sol, which we talked about, but Solis is going to be 128 single family lots, 21 of which are currently under construction with improvements going in. So there will be 128 new single family homes in the area adjacent to Bella Sol. So there have been some lots platted. And that's a great number of lots in the community for single family in this area.
Thanks, Jim.
Oh, I wasn't gonna do this. Paul Boyer, 2294 Julie Drive. We bought this house new in 2002. And I thought this would be our last house. But, you know, I have to discuss with my wife that maybe now we need to leave Santa Clara. I have, I've used two burial plots in Santa Clara's cemetery. I own 4 more that I thought would be for my wife and myself and some other family members. But I think maybe now, because I don't think this is going to change a thing. People are locked in. You're going to make more density, high density. You know, the rental apartments that they're building over there, they must have maybe 50 or 60 rented, and they've quit kind of putting the roofs on the rest of them that they've framed up because they can't rent them. And that's more high density. This high density is no good. And I guess, you know, I thought this was my last home and I die here in Santa Clara, but maybe we have to move along. This is terrible.
Thank you, sir.
I think I'm hearing a little bit too much about death, but my name is Harold Welling. I live on 1836 Red Mountain Drive. And one thing that keeps going through my mind is the wisdom of our forefathers and their zoning is R1. It's kept this a beautiful place for a long time. And what I keep hearing, or I think I hear, is that each one of these projects that come in, of the 11 or 12 that are underway now, springboard off the previous one to say, well, we can change the zoning because it's happened in the past. I'd like to see that stopped. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Council. We good? Nobody else comes forward? Anyone else from the audience?
He can't. Do we want to let him comment? He already commented.
That's up to you, Chair.
We've had,
Keep it brief.
yeah.
This doesn't direct you
It was Russell Good.
here.
Russell Good, right?
Russell Good at 3988 Madison Avenue. I encourage the people behind me that live on the village in the Heights to come up and speak your piece here today. Don't sit there and let other people do the talking. So if you feel free, come up and talk.
Thanks, sir.
Hello, my name's Karen Jensen. I live at 3823 Madison Avenue, Village on the Heights. I moved here in 2010 and I have loved Santa Clara. I'm not objecting to single family housing, but the high density is just ruining our landscape. We don't have the beautiful areas that we had before. And looking past Harmon's, that is really disgusting. And I don't want to see that out my front door. So I ask you, please, to really consider what you're doing. Another thing, we would have been asked to watch how much water we use. And yet you're putting in more and more and more that's going to use water and not just secondary water. Our water, where's it going to come from? What about our power? How many substations do we have to bring in power to all these homes? Are we going to start having rolling blackouts like other cities do because of so much power? And I know a lot of these places, they say they're enforced, they can't rent them. I know they're rented by other people. The owners, that's the only reason they're buying them up is because they can make money off of them. And if you think, well, that can be enforced, it's not being enforced. But I thank you for hearing us all. And I hope you really, really consider what it's doing to our beautiful, beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You know, I'm departing from the rules by allowing you folks to speak a second time. So I'll give you the courtesy to do that, but brief and quick, please. We've been pretty fair with everything.
Again, my name is Allison Snyder. I wanted to say one more thing about Black Hawk. Black Hawk, according to someone who lives there, it's supposed to be 50% owner occupied. It's not. It's 10. There's 10 units out of, I think, 88 that are owner occupied. Everything else is rented. Everything else has been treated as an investment. These people are not invested in the community or keeping it nice. And there's little enforcement that is done to make sure that these, when these promises are made and
That's a CCNR that's enforced by the
So,
homeowners
yeah, so that's-
association. So that's not the city that needs to enforce.
but then the homeowners associations don't come.
I'm sorry, that's the
Yeah.
homeowners that need
Okay.
to do that. So I'm going to cut you off right
Okay,
there
thank you.
because the point's not valid to our jurisdiction or our responsibility. Sorry. I hear you. I do hear you. I've been more than fair. Yeah, there's another lady that'd like to speak.
My name's Christine Jackson. I live at 3892 Nicholas Drive, which is right there on Patricia. Just a couple of things. I have seen with Black Hawk behind us that the people are so in and out and transient that they really don't provide a lot for our community and our neighborhood because they don't care. They don't want to become a part of Santa Clara. They have their own things, their own agendas. And when you have a nice neighborhood of single family homes, there is more of a feeling of community. And I think that's what Santa Clara started to be. Right now, it feels like we just want to build and build and build and get a million people in here that don't care and take care of things. My other concern is with behind us, everything behind Nicholas there is either vacation homes or high density housing, and it just continues on. My concern is, are we going to have police officers that are going to be there for us with the more people coming in? With more people, there's always going to be more crime. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that. I am also concerned about the water and the electricity. We keep saying we don't have enough electricity, our power is going up, yet we're putting in all of these homes and families that require that. And I'm sure that there is a plan for water and electricity that's in the works. But I think our community needs to know what that is, because that is a concern for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take this last one and then we're done with the public hearing.
Ann Hughes, 2223 Sharon Drive, Village in the Heights. All of my friends and neighbors, we all are for no rezoning. We like the way it's zoned and we want it to stay that way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've been very lenient with our time tonight and gone past our required time too. We thank you for your comments. With that, Clayton, we will hear from you as this closes up.
Clayton, if there's a certain exhibit you want to talk from, just let me know.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Appreciate that. So the course of the last 10 months, by the way, I am a resident of Santa Clara and have been 25 plus years. So I invested a long time in the community, having the Levitt name and the folks that settled here. They're my relatives. So am I going to put something here that's going to detract and devalue the surrounding neighborhoods? I think not. In fact, we've looked very closely at the general plan. When we bought the piece of property, and we noted that it was an area that the city designated in 2014 for medium density residential. I've been building in St. George the past 25 years, and I'm a little bit tired of building for out-of-state folks on quarter acre plus lots. I could do that all day long, and I've got grandkids and I've got nephews and nieces that want to live in Santa Clara, and they can't find a place to live.
Excuse me, Clayton, for just a second. I'm hearing some background talk in the audience. I would just request that we give Mr. Levitt the same respect that he gave to each of you as you spoke. If you want to have a discussion, please take it out into the lobby and then come back into the meeting. Thanks.
We have spent a lot of time going through various plans and talking with city staff, with residents, trying to come up with a plan that would be workable. There are some site constraints that we're dealing with, as was mentioned. We wanted to approach this. A lot of people said, let's just go do single family residential R110. Well, over a third of the project has expansive clays. So we need to be creative. And so we looked at the plan development residential requirements and felt that was the best way to approach this piece of property, to create some open common areas, which we've done. 6 acres out of the 18 acres is designated for that. In the general plan, it also encourages to build on smaller lots if you have soils issues. And multifamily. That's beside the point. The important part of our plan is what's going on around us. We got planned development to the south, Village on the Heights. We heard from a number of people. that are living in a planned development community right now. To the north, it's planned development as well. We've heard from a number of residents to the east of us, Santa Clara Heights West. And we wanted to take everybody's considerations into account, recognizing that good planning is making sure that you have transitions in density. We got high density to the north part of our property. So we're trying to be compatible with the folks that are on the north side and the folks that are on the east side, which we've done. I think we've done single family lots all along Patricia Drive. And we've tried to do some transitions. That one of the reasons why we've done some smaller single family pad lots is because it's right next to the attached townhomes. And that transition gradually grows and gets larger as you get further to the south. We think we have a great plan here. We've tried to consider also the neighbors to the east. And specifically wanted it where there's a wall. 400 East is a 66-foot wide road. It's also an arterial road. And we're doing a block wall all along there. It kind of matches the neighborhood in Ivans to the west of us. We elected to do some single family attached on the north half of that to help with that transition. So this is kind of how we've approached it, trying to follow the general plan, which I believe we have. And I believe it's been pointed out. And I just want to let the residents know that we build quality projects. If you look closely at our plans, we've gone above and beyond in detail on our townhomes. We have balconies, we have front yard courtyards, so people have places to go. We're trying to create spaces, being aware of the need to conserve water. Our goal is to bring all of our water users and connections under the 0.59 per acre feet. We all know that the water fees just went up January 1st of this year. And I'm not going to burden our residents with having to pay that additional expense because of the higher water charges for excess water. So that's why we've adopted a very, very good water conservant plan for our outdoors. And obviously we're gonna build our homes and townhomes very similar to where it's going to be a water efficient product and so forth. We feel that our product that we're going to bring to market is going to increase in our single family homes, is going to increase values around us. The quality that we're going to be putting into these, one of the things that was mentioned was the internal dwelling unit. This is encouraged also in the general plan. We think it's a great avenue that people that are having trouble trying to qualify for a home can rent part of their space and be able to make that transition. In addition, we've got a lot of families that are wanting to take care of mom as she ages. And this would be a great opportunity to be able to do that. So we've come up with a couple of plans that would incorporate that in our project. The price point was asked of us. We hesitate to tell you what the prices are going to be because the market changes. It's hard to tell you what the price point is going to be. All I can tell you is we're going to build a quality product that's going to exceed what's existing around us. We don't have all the elevations up here. I mean, if you've read our narrative, you can see we're gonna have five or six probably different single-family homes. And they're gonna be ranging from 1,500 square feet up to 2,900 square feet. That's a lot larger than a lot of the homes east of us and south of us. And you can see the design and the building elements we're going to put into these. So we're going to do that on single family. And if you looked at our multifamily units, it's going to be a step above Tuscany and Blackhawk as well, as far as the design and the detail. And it's going to be different. It's not all going to be a cookie cutter look. You're going to have different colors with stone, with brick, with colors through the project. And that's one of the things the general plan's asking us to do. Show some diversity. Let's not do the cookie cutter look. And I think we have the different product in this plan that does that. I think they can complement one another. Are we afraid to build single family homes right next to our multi-family product? No, we're not afraid to, because of the quality we're going to put in there. So if you're comparing us to Blackhawk or Tuscany Rose, I guess I'm going to say we're a step above that. We're looking to build for families. There's some comments as far as a sense of community. That's what we're intending to do here, is to create a viable community with the amenities that are provided. Instead of doing with the new water ordinance that's in place, instead of doing little strips of grass, we thought it made a lot more sense to still have some private areas, but have some really great green spaces that we can use. And so we're providing that to the public here as part of the plan. And we want to do something more like a resort style pool instead of just getting by. I think we have some great plans and some amenities. I don't know if you have, Jim, if you have pictures at all with types of amenities that we had our architect do a lot of different elevations, and he wasn't getting our colors quite right. But I had took some photographs of some parks and some amenities that we liked and wanted to show, if that's possible. I don't know if it's.
I don't know. Slide reel on here.
Might not. We gave them a lot. We gave them a lot. So it's going to be a very nice community. One that we'll put our stamp on. We're not leaving town. We're going to pass you along the street. We'll see you at the grocery store. Something that we're going to be proud of, and all the developments we've done here in building in Santa Clara and St. George. Right. I guess when we bought the property and from the Entz family, they happen to be good friends, and we know their family. And we feel like we have a stewardship to do something really nice here. And they've worked in some of our neighborhoods that we've built, and they were impressed with what we've done. And maybe it was one of the reasons they decided to give us a chance to develop this property. Let's see if I can. There's a lot of things that I think that have been addressed. The parking, for example, concern about traffic. We've done the traffic study. It was actually based on 168 units in our traffic study, and we've knocked down another 23 units to or 24 units to 144 units. So the roads are going to be just fine as far as our traffic. The CCNRs will control our on-street parking. Typically, we'll allow a 48-hour for on-street public parking within the neighborhood. We want them to be, we've got a lot of parking here, and we've widened our lots so that we can place an extra driveway on the single-family lots as well. As far as RVs and boats and these type of things, we're going to suggest our residents find another place to park. And that'll be enforced with our homeowners association.
Clayton, maybe now, Matt and I were talking, maybe you could see if there's some questions that the planning commission members have that they want to ask you specific to the project, but these are not short-term rentals, what you were just talking about. A short-term rental project does require boat, RV type of parking. This is to be owner occupied. Someone could buy a building and live in it and rent some of the units out, but it's long-term rental. These are not short-term rentals with people coming and going on a daily basis or weekly basis, bringing all their toys to and from the site. So just another issue there, but maybe the planning commission could ask Mr. Levitt some questions if you have those.
Commission?
Do you know about what your HOA dues are going to be? If you're,
I know what I'd like them to be, but it's probably too early to say. Do we want it to be under 150 or under 100? We want them to be, that's part of the reason for the overall project. And we want to do nice amenities, but at the same time, we're looking at even doing some artificial upfront costs with some artificial turf so that those fees can be lower. So, man, it's a hard one to answer right this moment.
It's a moving target, isn't it?
Well, a little bit until we get our construction plans in place and we know where we're totally at.
what do you expect as far as in the HOA, how do you enforce the owner occupied ratio? And what is that ratio going to be?
I don't know. Can you? I don't know if you can. Can you enforce the?
So the city doesn't currently have any ordinances that require units to be owner occupied. So we have no way of imposing that. State law does allow CCNRs to restrict units to, a certain percentage of owner occupied, but that's purely
That's done.
That's a
isn't that
developer.
through HOA.
Yeah,
Like
through an
rules,
HOA.
like in Blackhawk, where it's supposed to be 50%.
Well, they actually have that in their CCNR.
I've dealt with HOAs in the past as doing work for them, and I know that they do have rules, and some of that's in other states, like Nevada,
Mhm.
and they have made rules that outlawed rentals altogether, but those were actually legally, they did them within the HOA, and then they had to be overturned, and they had to make a percentage, and it's different. I don't know how state law works. I'm not an attorney or.
Yeah, well, in Utah, there is some specific state law that says you can use CCNRs to restrict rentals in a project. You have to do certain things to comply with those. But again, that's all private because the city doesn't enforce those private covenants. Individual property owners in those projects potentially can enforce those. So if a resident of Blackhawk, for example, was frustrated that it was not being enforced, that would be up to them to look at their options. But the city can't be responsible for that. So.
Just a quick follow-up on that. So what you're saying then is that if there's a violation of that, the HOA has to take care of that and enforce that. That doesn't have anything to do with the city in any way.
Yeah, the HOA or a property owner.
Okay.
generally has the right to enforce CCNRs in their own subdivision. But the city does not because it's a private covenant.
But if you do that as a private individual, you have to notify in the proper legal path. You can't just go knock on their door and say you're going to enforce it. It's a little more.
No vigilante enforcement, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Any other questions you guys? Logan?
I guess I know you've talked to the residents previously. And is that the reason that that's the main reason you're not putting any access, like a street or is pedestrian access to Patricia Drive is because the residents don't want it, neighbors?
That's our understanding, correct?
Because circulation's better. That's a long distance without people being able to get over there. But do you have any plans for pedestrian access, like at least up to, I can maybe see some to Tuscany from interior? I'm just thinking there needs to be a place for the people to be able to walk down to the park or something. Is there a plan for that?
So there is off of Tuscany, you can see a couple of those areas that actually go into the project. I was concerned, I had the same concern and we asked our traffic engineer to, the city was, and the folks that we talked with were saying that they did not want to access off Patricia. I felt it was real important with a previous plan. We had some additional attached townhomes north on Patricia. And it was pretty much told to us that, okay, let's not do the third access on Patricia. There's enough going on. And then the other recommendation was, let's bring the single family homes all the way up Patricia and get rid of the attached townhomes. And the other big thing that helped me internally, at least, was when we reversed the townhomes along Tuscany and had the driveways there. We're going to have driveways there. And that was a question about all these people parking. Well, you're not going to be parking if you have driveways all along Tuscany Drive now. So that's going to help eliminate. And I seen the truck with the whatever long.
It's there all the time.
It's there all the time. I've seen them forever and so forth. So that'll help. I think that situation, and one of the reasons the city staff suggested was a good suggestion, in my opinion, because it helped the traffic internally, because the traffic would be coming off Tuscany instead of interior. So it helped in two places, Patricia and on Tuscany Drive.
I just know it was mentioned about children's safety, and I've got 3 little kids of my own, and the way I look at it is having these internal streets that are on the narrower side. They're fairly a standard cross section throughout the county, that size of road anyways, for most public streets for single family homes. They're good size, but that provides places for the kids to be able to go within the community without having to walk down a big street like Pioneer Park or whatever. So if there ever was a school built to the east, it'd be nice to have some place for those kids to be able to get over there without having to go out to the busier streets, be able to stay in interior to those.
And at one time we had, in our just previous plan, we did have a couple of access points coming off Patricia. That's a great point. And I think we could certainly do that next to lot 14.
Yeah, what they have is you see the pedestrian access here next to 127 between 132, 133, 138, 139, but maybe an access comes through here, but works its way back to here. Yeah, it could come along this side and turn in here and tie back into this connection. With the road being removed to allow for the lots to front on Patricia, again, to match the uses. The sidewalk access would have been 5-foot sidewalk on either side, went away because it was felt that matching single family to single family be a better scenario for this development, and it's what the neighborhood preferred. But I think that's something that Clayton could add, somewhere on the side off of Patricia.
One thing I did have in our question was about the elevate, I didn't see any elevations for the yellow colored townhomes that are facing four
Yeah,
East.
you
Is
did.
there an
They're the single,
elevation for those?
they're the single family. I'm sorry, they
No,
are.
the single story townhome.
There was.
There was?
Yeah, I'll bring those up. Those are the ones with the 1-car garage and 2-car driveway.
We actually had a photograph and there was a photograph or I don't know if it was a photograph or a rendering that was in that mixture too.
That's it here.
Those are 2-story, aren't they?
No.
No.
Just a,
So that's like a faux window or something. Okay.
These are it, and they would be on the interior, and then he shows
What is
a line of
what
them
is
backing onto
what's
400.
What's the backside of those look like? Is there a picture of that?
I don't have a picture of the backside.
that's the ones that are on 400, correct?
Yes, he's got them where the access road is.
Yeah, so 80
the
to 90,
north.
80 to 94.
Yeah, to the north are the 1-story townhomes, and to the south are the single-family pads.
And then probably ought to note this too, because I heard the statement that single driveway, single garage, they're not single driveway, they're double car driveways with a single garage. So
Yes,
they exceed the parking requirements.
correct.
Okay.
Do you have an idea what those look like? Those are just gonna be fairly visible from 400 East. I was just curious what they look like on the back
There's a
or,
block wall on 400 East, isn't there?
I know,
Yeah.
but they're,
Yeah, you'll probably
Most- a lot
just
of
be
it's
seeing
above.
pretty much the roofs.
so it's gonna be gabled like that on the backside.
Yeah.
It'll just be the block walls and the roof.
That's pretty much look like a single family home, just a little wider.
Because how tall will that wall be on 400? Is
Should be
it 8?
6 feet.
6 feet, isn't it?
6-foot wall, and then this is designed at 22 feet.
Correct. Okay.
The zone allows for heights up to 35 feet for a 2-story home, and the elevations that have been presented between the Ramblers and the 2-story have a range of 19.9 to approximately 28 feet. Okay. For a 2-story, even the more narrow homes, those are at 28 feet for the 2-story.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Commission, any more questions? Good. Okay, thank you, Clayton. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So I just have a quick question, maybe for you, Mark or Jim. So after the planning commission makes a suggestion here, this is going to the city council and they're the ones that actually will make the final decision. Is that correct?
They make the legislative decision, yes.
Okay.
Maybe I can just add a comment on that, Mark, if it's okay.
Please.
That's exactly right. That is the process. The planning commission is, of course, a recommending body, a body that utilized by the city to get this feedback from the public. The recording of this meeting, the minutes of this meeting is available to the city council when they take this up. And the city council, as the elected legislative body of the city, by law has a significant amount of deference to make a decision like this, to either accept and approve the zone change proposal or to reject it. And they can take just about anything that they want to into account when they make that decision, including the comments that you've made, including any feedback they get from the planning commission, including the recommendation that the planning commission makes. But they'll be acting as legislators, as a legislative body when they make that decision. And so that is the nature of any zone change application. And the city council has been elected to make those kinds of decisions. I did think it might be helpful just to make a comment about the general plan, because I have heard some talk tonight about the zoning versus the general plan. The application tonight is to change the zoning. But underlying the zoning, we have a city general plan that was adopted by the city, gosh, a dozen or more years ago now. But there was an extensive process of receiving feedback from residents of the city. There were multiple meetings held. There were surveys. There were, public hearings where comments were made, and ultimately, this general plan was adopted, which includes the map that you can see here, along with the narrative. And part of that was to designate this area as medium density residential. The current zoning of R110 complies with the medium density residential general plan. But the zone amendment that has been proposed also complies with the general plan. And so this very much becomes just simply a question for the city council ultimately to decide as to whether the application that has been made, whether they feel it meets their vision for the city as reflected in the general plan. And again, under the law, they're given a significant amount of deference to make that decision. But all of the information that is provided to them, including what's been said at this meeting, will be taken into account in that ultimate decision that they make. So.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Commission members. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing and move on to the next body of information on our business. General business. A. 2, recommendation to the city council to consider a proposed rezoning of property at 400 East Patricia Drive and Pioneer Parkway. The applicant Clayton Levitt is proposing to rezone the property from R110 single family residential zone to the planned development residential PDR zone to allow for a proposed residential project that would include single family homes, multifamily townhomes, and amenities. I'll open that to the commission for discussion.
So Mark, if you don't mind, I'll just dive in and give you my 2 cents. I wrote a few things down here.
I've got 3 pages. You want me to start?
No, you don't have to write any of it down. It's not that important. But I love this. I love this project. I love the plan that they came up with. I think it's really important to have these types of projects and these types of transitions. There was some discussion about affordability and I think it's interesting because there's somebody mentioned it in the public hearing that there's this struggle between density and affordability, right? We all want every house to be $100,000 in Santa Clara, but we want them to have at least a half-acre lot. And it just doesn't seem like those are in harmony. I just saw an article come on my news feed about all these cities that are starting to put in tiny homes to address affordability. And there's a long way between this project and turning that whole thing into a bunch of tiny homes out there. I was opposed to them putting Harmons out there because I would run with my son, and that completely blocked my view in the evenings of Red Mountain. But we're some of the most passionate clients now of Harmons. And I walk over there with my family. I live in that neighborhood. I am concerned a little bit, quite a bit about the water factor. I mean, it is only 72 more residences, out of whatever 2,000 that are going in there. But I think that there's a certain point where we have to kind of pull the plug on this. And I personally, as much as I like this project, I'm glad the city council is going to see it. And we're not the ultimate decision makers on that, as we've seen in the past. But I would probably vote against this just because my personal theory is that when you buy a piece of property that's zoned a certain way, you buy that zoning. And I know that, it's their right to negotiate that and change that. But I just always think about that empty lot on the corner that was by my house. If they would have put a 7-Eleven in there, I would have probably been opposed to that. And so I figure other folks feel that same way. But I think the builders spent a lot of time and I think they've come up with a great transition and it looks like it's been very thoughtful. That's all I have.
I guess I can talk. My couple thoughts on this are, I think they've mitigated like a lot of the issues that people would bring up as far as like transitioning into this existing single family homes and transitioning over to the townhomes to the north. A lot of people wondered why this is in harmony or why everybody in Santa Clara keeps saying that we shouldn't put high density up here. If you look at the general plan, most of our city is the yellow color. There's a huge blob of all the stuff that's been here since the 70s and up until now, that's yellow right there. So, and then there's a small amount up around in this area that has the medium density. The people that lived here, that while ago wanted it up here. Ivans does a similar thing. They've put all their medium density down on the highway, which actually affects us as Santa Clara residents more because a lot of that traffic then funnels through our town. It's one thing is good about putting some more people in this area is that it does support the commercial up there that everybody seems to like. Everybody seems to like the Harmons that's there now, having the banks and stuff. And that is supported by having a critical mass of people up here. I know tons and tons of people complain about development called in Little Valley where they have horrible traffic on River Road. Well, Little Valley is completely single family homes and all that traffic has to go into town because they have no critical mass out there. It seems like a lot of people, but it's not really. And they just drive in and out of River Road. So I think he's worked out this really well. I wish there was more circulation. A lot of communities would not allow this to have this large unaccessed road without circulation onto Patricia Drive, but I get why they're doing it. And I think that's a meeting halfway with the neighbors who I know in the past have closed access off to the park because they didn't want people driving through their town or through their streets into the city park that was built up there for other people. But like I said, like development is what it is. Like I remember back in high school, this was a great place for us to go to. We played a lot of youth activities and played Still the Flag up in this area. It was desert. There was big sagebrushes that were really lush and they were all in this area, not necessarily this lot, but where Nicholas and Patricia or those roads are. That's where we would play lots of night games and stuff as kids. And that's just the nature of growth. You have to have some place to live. There is a need. There also is a need for this. I live in the older part of town and every time a house sells, it's a lot of times it's bought by somebody else and it's turned into a duplex because people can't afford to buy the house. And there's so many units in my neighborhood that are being turned into duplexes, adding the ADUs on because people can't afford find a place to live. And this is going to help with that. Affordability is relative. If you're lucky enough to have moved here 10 years ago and able to have a mortgage this low, good on you. I'm one of those people. Nowadays, these kids are grateful to get a $2,000 a month rent because the mortgage they would get on a house would be way more than that, especially if they don't have anything to start out with. So the other thing too is that affordable housing is the moderate price housing in 20 years. So you got to build it now so that it can be more affordable down the road. So that's my 2 cents. I think it's a good project. I think we need it. It's where it was planned to be. Granted, it's zoned R110, but that's probably mostly because it was a holding zone when this was added to the city years ago, and that's just what they kind of put there. But it seems like the residents of the past have wanted this to be medium density, and it seems like this is what's going on and to help it out with me. So I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Logan.
The only thing I can add to that is that I appreciate all the comments from the residents as well as Clayton. I agree with Logan. I think the project demonstrates transition, which I think is a component necessary. I appreciate how much he's tried to work, the developers tried to work with the plan to fit it as well as he can into the parcel. The application came complete, which we sometimes don't get those always, with traffic studies and things like that.
Thank you, Shelley. Good. To you, Mr. Anderson.
I'd like you to go first because I think you'll cover most everything.
Well, interestingly enough, my opinion echoes Logan's and those comments that this was a holding place for the R110. And I understand that we have to have certain restrictions and those types of things. We've got to make tough decisions now because the previous generations before us did the best they could given what they knew. I don't think, as I visited with my father-in-law, that many, many years ago when they determined they didn't want trailer parks in Santa Clara and Ivans went ahead with it, that was really the outcome that they saw in the future. Nobody had a crystal ball. So they did the best they could with what they had. And I think that that's one thing we have to be thankful for. This is tough, but at the same time, it's done a great job accommodating and working on the things that have been pushed back and fed that way. So I appreciate those comments. I believe everything that's been said before is really good. I really appreciated the public's comments, and we do listen. We listen to a lot of things, and there's things that were pointed out to me that I hadn't thought of. And I've spent time walking around this property. I spend a lot of time up in the neighborhood of Black Hawk for various reasons. And I see the cars parked there on that drive all the time. So I understand that. I actually have a daughter and son-in-law that own a home in Black Rock. So there are these things that come to mind for me. And I think having the concessions that you've made forth are the right moves for the right thing. So in my opinion, I'm in favor of the project the way it sits.
Hey, what is if I could ask it, and maybe you don't know this, but what is the density of Black Hawk? Does anybody know that?
I don't know that number.
87.
Well, how many?
So it's 87 units.
How many?
Well, I'll try and calculate it in my head and see if I can figure it out for you. Curtis Whitehead would like to make a comment from Zoom.
Great. And I saw him on here. So thank you, Curtis. I'm glad you're here. I was going to suggest that after Ryan.
So
So
the
go
body
ahead.
knows Commissioner Whitehead had surgery, major surgery on his shoulders and arms today, or arm and shoulder today. So he's joined us via Zoom. So he has been for the meeting today.
Hi, Curtis.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I promise I'm not on any painkillers or anything that would have me saying things I shouldn't. So with that being said, I really appreciate the presentation. I think a lot of time has gone into this. You can tell that Mr. Levitt has taken into account feelings and how to best help those that are around in neighborhoods. I've got 2 kids that are getting about the age that are going to be leaving the house. And so affordable housing, I know that's been debated a little bit. That's something that I would like to have my children stick around in Southern Utah, especially Santa Clara. And in the current situation, I don't know if that'll be a possibility just due to there not being any place for them. I never got into the purchase rentals when I was younger. And so my kids don't have that opportunity to help me find them a house. So this could possibly be an answer to that. I know that's been debated a little bit today. The challenge that I have whenever we are talking about changing a zone is I struggle when there's such a opposition with the vicinity of those that this surrounds. I try, like James said, I try and put myself in that situation, and how would it be if it was me? I purchased the house, I build a life in an area expecting to have what the master plan or what the zoning was, and then to just have it change. That's a challenge that I have, and it would be a challenge for me to support the change in zone just for that reason. I like the idea of this plat. I like what it brings to the community, but at the same time, with what the neighbors and the general public are saying, I can completely understand where they're coming from, and that's a challenge.
Thanks, Commissioner. You got anything else?
Well, yeah, I agree with Curtis as well. I agree with everybody here, actually. You know, there's a lot of comments. I do appreciate public comment. I always come into these with an open mind as much as I can and listen to everyone's comments. I do personally like the project. I think especially where Clayton started, the first time he came in and we denied it, it was a lot more units. I think it was a little too aggressive. We didn't like it. The neighbors didn't like it. He did listen to a lot of comments, spend a lot of time fixing this, and I do like it, but I do have to agree. In my backyard, I have to take into consideration the comments of the public and their thoughts and how they're thinking about how this would affect them. A lot of times I think we get things blown out of proportion, and if this happened and down the road 5 years, you'd probably be some of your best friends would live here and you'd love it, and it'd be a really good community. So that's something to consider, because I always, I've been around long enough, I guess, where I've seen things that I just totally despised, and after it's happened, I'm like, man, that's not so bad. This was actually a really good project, and it really fits our neighborhood, and there was a need for it. Some of these people, some of you guys might have quarter and third acre lots that you might want to downsize because you're sick of taking care of your yards, stay in the same neighborhood and move into something a little smaller and be able to enjoy that a little bit more. So that's always something to consider as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So that I'm not texting just oddly. I'm trying to get a hold of the developer of Blackhawk, and they were
Mark.
8.9 acres.
Oh, yeah, we just pulled it up online. It's about 9.5 units per acre, give or take. That's very rough.
He said that the bottom, their final their final calculation was 87 acres at 9.35 acres, 9.35 units.
Okay, so that's pretty close to what we came up with. It's about 9.5 units per acre.
So. Anything else that we need to discuss? To the commission, I asked for someone to entertain a motion of some sort.
I can make a motion. I move that we recommend approval for the rezoning of property at 400 East Patricia Drive and Pioneer Parkway, as has been presented on 18.9 acres. I think I had also think that it needs to comply with the recommendations that have been listed by the staff, and
I'll second the motion.
A motion from Logan to recommend approval to the council of the zone change, the MDRs for the project did with the conditions stated in throughout, and second from Shelley. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
3-2.
What's your vote, Chair?
I vote for, so you're 3-3.
Okay. So that motion fails to pass. So the commission can discuss more, there can be another motion made if you choose to do so.
Okay.
So I have a question. I may have misunderstood something. Mr. Hens, does that go, it goes to the city council irregardless of what we decide tonight, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we leave it the way it is, what happens?
If you leave it the way it is, it essentially goes to the city council with no recommendation.
Okay. And is that a bad thing?
We're
We're not doing our job.
Okay.
I think from the city, excuse me.
We're not doing our job if we don't have a recommendation. Sir, if
You're out of
you're
line.
in the audience, I'll ask you to leave the room, please. Thank you.
So, yeah, I think from the city council's perspective, they would love to have an up or down recommendation. But if you're deadlocked and you can't reach a certain recommendation one way or the other, then it is what it is, and the city council will consider it accordingly. So.
I have to go back to the commission for your comments and your recommendations, or if you want to just leave it as is and submit it this way.
Well, Chair Hendrickson, if we table this, will it really come, we're going to discuss it, we're going to talk about it, we're going to do a little more of our due diligence. Is that really going to make much more of a result on either end of it if we table it to a further date?
It does not. We really are at an impasse. We've got to make a recommendation one way. Tabling it, we would have to give specific things to be addressed, correct?
I think that would be for the best. If a motion is made to table it and, it's well articulated and you vote to do that, I think that's fine. But,
Has to be addressed at some point.
yeah, I mean,
So if we
we're
table it,
just
we have to
kicking
give
it
him
down.
things to be addressed, do we not?
That would be ideal. If we're just, kicking the can down the road because we can't reach a decision, I wouldn't recommend tabling it. I would recommend, for the benefit of the applicant, to keep it moving, send it to the council.
The only thing I see by redoing it, Mark, is that if you change who's here, if Mark Weston's here, then that flips it one way or the other or something like that. I mean, unless somebody changes their mind, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had a client in town unable to make it due to client commitment. So
Yeah, and I think pushing it to a later meeting just to get a different mix of people to vote, I think is not really an appropriate reason to push it.
yeah, that's just kicking the can for kicking.
Yeah, I mean, you sitting here are a quorum of the planning commission and can make a decision. So if you're deadlocked, you're deadlocked, but I don't want to take away the opportunity if someone else on the commission wants to make another motion to try and resolve the issue. Certainly that's your prerogative.
Right.
And I understand what you're saying, Mark, we need to do our job. I personally don't feel like it's a terrible thing for the city council to realize that there was some, we're kind of mixed
I
about how we
I
feel.
think that statement's being taken literally rather than
Okay.
an illustration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I personally feel comfortable with it going, like you say, Mr. Ans, that's probably not the most desirable option, but kind of it is what it is, right?
That's right. Yeah. And if no one has another motion to make, this is, it'll go to the council with as is.
Then I will pose to the commission. Does anyone else have a motion they'd like to entertain? Oh, see one coming, Curtis?
No, I don't at this time.
Thanks. Well, with that, I would say we're at impasse. And I don't know what else you can do at that point, but commit, send it on to the city council with no
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, so we'll move this on to the city council with no recommendation from the planning commission. Obviously, they'll have the minutes. They'll be able to, review what was discussed and what was considered, the feedback that was given by the public. And, they'll be able to ask their own questions of the applicant and so on. So, this is still valuable. I
Oh, it's-
want to
it's
say that.
process.
It's part of the process.
Outcome or not outcome. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving on in our business then. Do we have any discussion items from staff or council?
I don't have any other discussion items. I think we just, not this evening. Do we have minutes on the agenda?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
With that, we have item 7, approval of minutes, request approval of regular meeting minutes from our March 9th, 2023 notice. I had a chance to read these and felt good about them. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think they're good.
So will I take a motion from someone?
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of March 9th, 2023 as been presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Logan to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I can second that.
Curtis can second it. Ryan can second it. We've got a second from Curtis then on the phone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any. And with that, we stand adjourned from today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.